During their 22 years on Old Hill, he acknowledged that they made mistakes, but that Front Farms is aiding and learning from them. Dan has the attitude that as long as you're learning from your mistakes, that Old Hill will work. He is a firm believer that if you take care of the land will take care of you. Please welcome Dan.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, the first thing I want to let you know is I'm a farmer. So whatever I do, I'll get this label. Whatever I do, whatever I say, it don't just happen on our farm. Does it always work? No. Have I made mistakes? Yes. So you're going to find out how some of the mistakes you are. So one thing I really believe in is just like this. We need to learn to work with Mother Nature, not try to change things up that she's already set up for us, and we try to do that too much. Gettysburg, Central South Dakota, along the Missouri River. If you've ever been to the West Hog Resort, that's where we farm. The farm is owned by Lonnie and Mike Cronin. I went to work for the dad, and then the dad passed away from cancer 15 years ago, and then Lonnie's the main manager of this 100-year farm. You know, no one really thought Cronin would be able to go below $5, but in all honesty, I think it might be an alright deal because it's going to make us do something else. And one thing I think is diversity is what's going to have to happen, and I think diversity is going to help everybody. Keep corn and bean rotation is really a rotation. So I just think we all have to do this. And another thing, I think livestock, instead of breaking up the pasture, I think livestock will probably come back in, and I hope it does. This is our farm, 8,300 acres and 600 under the center pivot, and we get our water out of the Wahi. We have 850 cow calves. They run on grass. That's and we background their calves. We run on the Missouri River breaks. So these are our pivots. This is Bob's resort. I don't know if you did West Whitlock tremendous fishing deal. So this is where we run the cattle in the summer. It's all one big flock. It's all really rough ground. It's always going to be pasture, which is a blessing. This is where we water our cows. So our cows come home on 2 sections. So on the 1st of December, they'll go back to the cabin pasture on the creek here shortly, in probably 2 weeks. So this is where we water our cows. So cover crop really play an important role to us. You know, I think we really need to do this, you guys. You're making a big footprint, and you know, this really came at the National Cover Crop Conference in Omaha. I got to applaud the NRCS and the SARE organization and the Buffett Foundation, because if we don't think we're in trouble in the United States, we are. But we'll get into that more, because I'll explain that a little bit more. But I really think we need to watch our carbon footprint, because we're in pretty good shape here, but it just depends on how long we can stay in good shape. We don't want to deplete this any more than we can. So you can see we've come a long way. We can say, boy, we're feeding a lot of people. But this is what really makes you look at the these are NRCS's numbers from the conference. So we've lost 43 million acres to erosion. We've lost 14 million acres to urban sprawl in the last 30 years. 340 million acres of farms. So what happens if we do that in the next 30 years? And then we're trying to feed more people all the time. So we've got to watch that we don't deplete our land. We've got to take care of this land. We're not going to make any more. We've got to take care of what we've got. This is something that's really 34% of the world is undernourished. I mean, this is grossly undernourished. This right here is the same amount of acres as the United States. So what happens in 20 years if all of a sudden this starts moving up here? So this is something we really have to be aware of, you guys. If you take care of the land, we'll take care of you, and we're here for a short time, and we'll at least try to live our land. We're farming for the next generation and their kids. We started that on our farm 20 years ago, and we fully believe that. We've got to farm for the next generation. And then this is the soil health is a driving, that's the driving force. Without a doubt, soil health is a driving force. There's nothing, all our rotation, everything I'm going to talk about today, it's all based around soil health. You know, you say, boy, that'll never happen to us. This is Central South Dakota in 2007. That's about 6 miles south of where we farm. Okay, so that'll never happen again. So here's 2012. So you say that'll never happen again. Never is a long time. So this is a fragile land we live in. We've got to take care of it. Rain, everywhere you go, you talk rain. It's just like a roller coaster ride. And I understand that. Everybody, you can sit here, everybody's going to talk about the bad years, the good years, the wet years, the dry years. We've got to learn to adapt. We have to have our soil ready to adapt. And this is something, these are just our rainfall. So like in 2011, started out pretty good, but look in October, look at here. So are we going to raise a crop in 2012? We had 10.5 inches of rain in 2012. And then look at here. 2012, we still had a way better year than what we deserved. Everybody said, where does that come from? It came from soil health. So here, look at, now this is another thing, so the other extreme. So here's 2013. So we've got our ground all ramped up where it's really dry in the fall. Now all of a sudden we're wet in the fall. Are we going to be able to hold that? If you haven't depleted your organic matter, if you worked on soil health, you worked on covering the soil, you will hold that. The worst thing, there's hardly any time you'll ever see water run off our land. And it's basically from soil health. I thought Paul did an excellent job today. One thing I want to say though is when, a good example, if you're going to drive someplace and you have a choice of driving across the pasture or driving across the plowed field, which is really muddy after rain, which one are you going to do? Because that sod, that's exactly what no-till is. It's just got a base. Okay, I don't know. I hope all you guys in here know Dwayne Beck. Does anybody know Dwayne? Good for you, good for you, good for you. Because if you don't, you should. Because, you know, I'm on the board of Dakota Lakes. I'm around Dwayne all the time. We went to Salina together down at the no-till and Plain. We went to Omaha together. It's just, he's unreal the way his thought is, and he's not really in it for money. He's in it to promote soil health and to make this a better world. But one thing, the focus is on being proactive and preventing problems rather than waiting until after it happens and then try to fix it. So think ahead. All he's saying is think ahead. And he's hooked up with the Buffett organization, and he's really, his heart's really into this. I think the world is Dwayne. You know, I'm going to talk some on our farm, because I'm going to tell you the basis on the farm, how we farm, because I feel I have to. So just like this is where we were farming before no-till, and this is just 21 years ago. And, you know, we really thought we considered ourselves some of the better farmers around, like we always do. You're not going to say we're the worst farmers. And we were the second person in the county to adopt no-till. And then this was a hard step. The first step is I'm talking no-till. I'm talking low disturbance, no-till. Leave the soil alone. Don't fracture it in where you have to. And also leave all the residue you can on. This is where our yields have gone. And, you know, I'm talking yield goals. I'm not going to say yield. They don't like to talk yield. Because they talk yield, I feel like they're both. These are yield goals. And this is where we've gone since we started no-till. And we were tickled about 75. This deal here is pretty common. The variable rate was doing quite a bit better than that. So you can see where our yield goals have gone. And all this is because of reverse rotation of soil health. I love diversity in the rotation. Nature cannot be mimicked, or cannot. I'm going to let you guys read that stuff because I'm reading across the kinks, and I've done it's just like I started. And so if everybody can see it, I'll let you read it. But and I really believe that. These are our crops raised in 2013. We raised a lot of different crops, and the barley, I just overheard a guy say barley, you know, but most of our crops, a lot of our crops is I call them cover crop market. The NRCS said that there's 3 million acres of cover crop land in the United States this year. By 2020, they want 20 million acres. They want 20 million acres. And that was the head of the NRCS stood up and said that, right, everybody down. So what I'm saying is, land, we look at the recommendations, they call for no phosphorus. Well, the reason they call for no phosphorus is flax is really high in mycorrhizal. So it actually is going to get an organic phosphorus. So we'll get into that later. But that's, I'm just doing that more for soil health and for diversity. These are all our cover crops. We raise a lot of different cover crops. Test grass, I'm going to have a slide on test grass. Test grass, we're also making a cast crop. We're harvesting test. We harvested a quarter of test last year. And then this is just our machinery. We pull our 1910 cart, we take it off behind our 1895 and put it on our drill, just to help it extend. We've been doing that for a lot of years, and I just think it's the best way. You're putting the fertilizer where it should be. You're not over fertilizing. You're making your fertilizer more efficient. This is just our 1895, and this is the crops we raise and when we raise. So you can see we from April, then in May, we get our cart behind our corn cutter, and then it goes back. So we really we utilize the system. We have that tractor using one tractor, one guy, and we stay pretty happy with it. You know, this is a 750 drill, and I looked and finally found one. We use that to plant cover crops. Cover crops, where you have no waterway or something you want to plant, all you want to sell. That's how we started out 20 years ago. But anyway, you know, we got really wet really late last year. It kind of made a guy feel good. We planted 900 acres of that last spring. We planted some lentils, some field peas, and some oats. So it was just a nice feeling that we still had to put auto steer on because we can't drive without auto steer. You know, we love residue. But one thing, you know, when you talk about these guys planting at an angle, I really firmly believe we have to protect the residue. That's a must. So everybody planted it, they'll plant at an angle, we won't. We'll plant back and forth because when you plant at an angle, you take so much room to turn around and you destroy your residue. We're that big believers in protecting the residue. We anhydrous, I know there's a lot of anhydrous. I know it's the cheapest way to do it. It might be the best way to do it. We put anhydrous because of this. We didn't want to open the soil up. Every time you open the soil up, you let carbon go. We weren't going to do that. So we put, and so this is how when the 1895s came out, there's two came in the United States, and we were one of them, and the other one was a neighbor that lives 5 miles to the west of us. And the thing about the 1895 is 10-inch spacing, and then every 20 inches was urea band. So that'll be 5 inches away from the seed. And so then on the nitrogen, we believe that fertilizer needs to be in the ground. 80% of our nitrogen will go on 5 inches away. But here's what we're really finding out, and I've done a lot of work, and I've got some slides to verify this, that by being 5 inches away at the fourth week, the wheat fertilizer will get together. So we want to manage our tillers. We want to grow wheat heads. We don't want to grow straw. So we manage our tillers. And then we'll use the starter. We put potash in. And the main reason we put potash in is we want the chloride. Chloride makes for plant health. And then one thing by doing that, a lot of times you're finding out you won't have to put that first trip of fungicide in with the herbicide. And that's real important because every time you put fungicide on, you're killing some good fungi in the ground. So if you can do something like putting some chloride in, just a little bit of chloride in, and that's just going to help with help preserve the good fungi. Because when you kill the bad fungi, you also kill the good. And then we do not take credit for our organic matter. A lot of guys say, oh, you have to. Organic matter is less than our savings account. We're building organic matter, and we love that. There's going to come a time when you get a really big yield where you're going to get into it, but we're not going to take credit plan on every year. We're not going to do that. We don't do it. We never have, never do it. But like last year, we used it on our corn, had a really good corn crop. We'll come back and put 28 on, and we're finding out, you know, we really work with the protein market. We look, especially if we'll have enough nitrogen on for our bushels, and if it looks like a protein is going to be a deal, we come back on in 28. We're also finding out, we're doing a lot of work, and finding out we can get a little bit later to still influence our yield. So instability and it goes up in the air, and so that's one reason why we wanted to be banded. And this is, if you ever Colton, if you ever read it, it's in the furrow. If you go back, the furrow does a good job of leaving back issues on. And all they're saying is that just read that. I mean, so you concentrate the end for efficiency, you concentrate the products, and I really believe that. And this is something you guys, Dave Francine, this is, so it's in western North Dakota, which I should have done eastern, but he said, not to be required, but if you've been no-till or just starting no-till, you increase by 20%. And then if you've been no-till 5 years, you take away 20, you give yourself 20 pounds credit. You know, and you can take whatever you want. I mean, basically what he's doing, he's making healthy soil, he's using it. I don't use it, but I mean, that comes from scientists. You know, this is something I really believe that a lot of times when we look at things, we're thinking that, you know, I can't believe that we didn't raise any better crop than that, and we're so dry, and the first thing you start talking about is being dry. But a lot of times it's not just drought. I mean, a lot of times it's the plant nutrients, because you have to have the plant have the nutrients so it can actually produce everything to make healthy roots and make everything else that helps with water more available. You know, I really believe in seed treatment, but one thing about seed treatment is what you don't really need the latest and the greatest. I mean, it's really nice to have the latest and greatest. We do our own, and we had some done in town. We bought some seed in town, and they treated it with the $30,000 treater, and I wouldn't trade ours. So all this slide is you don't really have to have the latest and greatest to get the job done. This is working with population, and I'm a big believer in populations. I mean, everything we plant, even our calf grass, 1.3 million seeds a pound, everything I'm talking about, everything we plant by population. Never plant by pound. I want to know how much I'm planting. But one thing I'm finding out too on this deal here is on mortality. I wasn't taking enough mortality because a lot of times the seed bounce, you were getting mortality. Take the seed count, estimate the tillers, everything in yellow I changed, and there's our seeding rate. So that's fine. So now I know the seeding rate. This is the big talk of, you know, what do you plant, Well, I take it the next step. 10-inch spacing, maybe 14.5 inches, count the plants plus tillers, average seed. And so what I'll actually do is I'll take it the next step. So I go out on the fields because I change the population. When we start doing stuff in the spring, when it's cold, we'll start heavier, and then we'll drop down a little bit, and as the season gets later, we'll raise up. In the winter week, we'll start low, we'll start high, then we'll start low and then work high. So, I mean, this is just a check, because, I mean, I don't want to go through all that work. Everybody says 1.2, 1.4, 1.5, and how they know, and I'm just trying to find out on our farm what works the best for us. I want to grow big heads. I don't really care to grow straw. I love straw. I like residue, but I want to grow wheat. You know, our residue managers, what we do is we pull our choppers. On our chopper, we pull our knives all the way. The knives are all the way up. I want that straw up just as long as we can. If we have a stripper head, I'd give anything, but we have peas and soybeans and lentils, and so it's hard to justify the stripper head. But I want that straw as long as I can. I want it to be a slow breaking down, and another thing, when you cut it fine, it turns into mat and really covers, and it's harder to work with. So we pull our knives all the way out on our choppers. This is something that it's nothing to do about soil health. Well, a lot of this isn't. It's just farmers talking to farmers. So we'll let the NRCS guys. I get into soil health, but we'll just let Paul just kind of take a breather for a little bit. But we were harvesting sunflowers. We have 2 combines. I called Casey. I said, "You just got done calibrating." And I said, "Casey, what's the yield?" And Casey said, "Well, I'm like 3,000 pounds." I said, "Casey, that's way too high. I mean, we're not doing that. I mean, we're like 2,500 or something like that." And so I got thinking, and I said, "When you dumped on our cart, where did you dump?" He said, "Well, I dumped right over the tunnel." So you load that cart up and you calibrate it all the time, and she'll be within 1%. But when you calibrate that cart, there'll be 200 pounds on a load between dumping here and here off the tank load off the combine. We both started dumping over the axle every time, and it works out just great. every time you calibrate, so just a little tidbit, you guys, but I mean, it's just good to know. If you're gonna do it, you might as well try to do it right. And then working with traffic, and you get back to that traffic and compaction, and all we do is the combine will come down here, then it'll come and go over here, and then when it comes back, it picks it up again. And all we're doing is defining the movement of our car. We don't want the car running all over the field, we don't have to, so we're just helping with the compaction. This is Cheryl Reese, SDSU, tremendous lady. She patience is a saint because she puts up with me. And so this is our test we ran, and it was a big test, and this is back in 2005. So we did a mid-row without any 28, we did the 28, and then here we spread, that's spread it over the top, and then here we didn't put anything on. I mean, this is as good a test as what you want. It was replicated, it was done right. She put an enrich and an old fertilizer on, so I mean, this is a college test box. This thing was done right. Standard deviation, the whole works. Okay, we're big in Landsat, love Landsat. We're using, I don't know if you guys caught that, Landsat 8, I use it all the time in our description, but that's what they're using now to look at that aircraft. Everybody is sitting there watching to see if they can pick it up on Landsat. So, this is the Landsat, this is Landsat 5, 7 up there. So Landsat 5, so you can see, this is, all I'm trying to say is the plot showed up. And then here's the finals. So this was the best. We gained a little bit of protein. If we would have had a better year, we might have done better. Our yield goal was right at 60 bushels, so we hit that. But see, look where our surface applied. And then look where we waited and put all our fertilizer on at right here. Mid-row band 40, so you know you need to fertilize it, and then well, you can see it was just a really nice test, and you can see the protein. And this is spring wheat. Our goal is to about 14.5, 15 protein on spring wheat. That's kind of where we're reaching. Here's another one real quick with Wayne. So we had a yield goal of 68 to 70 bushel, 170 units in, and I just wanted to find out what we were going to do with starter. And so you can see our chloride is pretty low. Our sulfur, you know, I mean, our deep sulfur is a lot of times all right. I know I'll move it to water, but a lot of times it's all right. So this is the test we set up, and this covers 67 acres. This is a nice test. Wayne and I did this by ourselves, replicated. I mean, he came out on a Sunday and rode the combine, and we did all the way in. So you can see this is the map alone, see the chloride. So, you know, you say, well, that's really, you know, so this is tissue test. So this really helped, right? Well, when you get all said and done, this is our yield, and this is our protein. But you can tell it looks to me when you look at this, is the sulfur helped us more than anything. A little bit of sulfur with the seed. It didn't show up on the tissue test, but it helped. But see, another thing is I want to be 12 to 1 on my nitrogen sulfur ratio, and that's where we're a little over that. But I think this is your final report card. I picked this up from a guy from Australia. I mean, so I take a grain sample and I send it in, and this is my final report card. You can say whatever you want, bushels in the bin, protein, but this is the final report card right here. Our drill, we hook our cart behind our drill, and we've done that for quite a while. We started out in 2001 with a 12-row planter, and we've always pulled that. And then, so what we'll do is we'll put our starter with the seed, and then our starter will go with the seed, and the reel goes 3 inches off. And before anybody, while you're still thinking of it, keep that train of thought, because everybody says, I used to run 2 tanks, a tank of urea, a tank of phosphorus, and a tank of MESC, or 40 rock, and then we run 2 tanks of urea, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Our fertilizer placement is pretty straightforward. So what we do is urea 3 inches off, started with the seed, trash whips, pneumatic trash whips, that's the only way to go, I feel, because you want to control that residue. A lot of times in Martin's loaders will have 60 pounds of down pressure on them, and a lot of times in we were running too much. And so we run into a lot of straw, and you put them up. We really like the mud smiths. We run Thompson frozen wheels. I'm I got 4 rows of pro stitch. We're going to try on a big lever and putting 4 or 5 rows on and trying it. The Keatons I feel, really a must, and then that's what we want to do. This is how we kind of built it. John Deere doesn't make a dry tube anymore, so we manufactured our own one, made our own hitch. I mean, all this is farmer made. There's a lot of planters down there that way. They're getting away from it now, but and it's just, I don't know, I don't know what you want to call it, the $7 corn revolution or something. I don't know, it revolves all around $7 corn, I guess. And then this is just 2 years of corn going back to sunflowers. You know, this is something, you know, not only the cost of the trip, and there's a lot of it done in our area like this, where they go in and fall. I mean, some guys get done planting northern wheat when it's way too warm, and they'll put your urea down and phosphorus down, and then they don't run starter. And I mean, that's okay, you guys. I mean, everybody's got a way, and this might not be too bad a way, but you're just going to have to recruit a lot of people. But, you know, I'm not going to say something. You know, this is a way, and this is an actual experience that happened in our neighborhood again, and I'm not picking on our neighbors, but it just so happens you can. This is a pretty good no-tiller. He's one of these guys that he'll go for acres. He doesn't really go for performance, he goes for acres. So everybody, instead of pulling the cart at 24, they go get a big 36-row planter, and we got to get our fertilizer down, so they turn around and they run the drills over the ground. So we did that, so we had failed winter wheat. Well, he didn't put anything back on. We put cover crop on our failed winter wheat, or we went back to wheat and wanted to keep our rotation. And so what he did was they soil sampled it, and he didn't have enough fertilizer. So they put more fertilizer on. So what he did was he went in and he put that on this is in the spring. He put it on October 13th, and that was a good stubble field. He's got his soils active enough. We had rain last fall. Everybody was eating up the residue, and then he went in and he chopped the residue in little pieces. So that's that's why we won't make that other trip. We won't make any more trips on our fellow than we have to. We don't want to. There's a lot of these going on, and this is a young guy down south of us, and I kind of like this idea. I mean, he put a dry cart behind an anhydrous applicator, converted it. He's running a cover crop. You know, but the only thing I don't like about it, I wish I would have known, I mean, there's no carbon in that cover crop. That happened to me a few years ago, and we'll get into that. Okay, we have our yield goals, and we use urea, and just like I'm saying on the phosphorus levels, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I mean, what's happened to our soils active in our phosphorus, it just kind of blows your mind. And then we use 40 rock, and the reason we use 40 rock over mez is just because mez has got elemental sulfur, and this has got sulfate sulfur, and so that's the reason we use it. And we still don't get enough sulfur on. I'd like to put more sulfur on, we just don't get enough sulfur on. And then if we're going to put 28 down, and if we're not going to use it on the atrazine, I'll put stream bars on, because I don't want to break that salt down any quicker than I have to. I want that residue left alone. I will get into soil health. And then this is the 2 inches, and you know, this is something I really believe. Everybody talks about precision farming, and then they want to go all this money to variable rate, and then they don't even consistently 2 or 3 times a day check seeding done. This is the first step in precision farming. This happened to one of our neighbors, and I really felt sorry for him. And all he did was he ran into more residue. He checked it that first day, and he never checked it again. And I mean, this can happen. I really like Ada. She's just a nice lady, and she's pretty new at college down there. And she was down at Dakota Lakes, and we went, she took us out in the field, and we were gonna look for aphids on wheat. She handed me a sweep net. I said, "Wait, what are you using a sweep net for?" And she said, "Well, I said, "I can find aphids." She said, "We're not looking for aphids, we're gonna look for friendlies." He said, "Because what you do when you want to spray, if you think you're looking for aphids, you go up with a sweep net, because I want you to count all the friendlies. Because, you know, the friendlies, the lacewings, ladybugs, they're a great thing. Don't recreational put insecticide on. And I really, there is a time, but there is a time when you have to do it. But when you do it, make it a good decision. Don't blanket spray your whole farm. Do the sweep net deal. It'll scare you how many friendlies are out in the field. But there comes a time when you have to spray. But just don't be putting insecticide on, because every time you put something on, it's hurting us in the future. This is aphids on corn. I got all excited. Jonathan Lundgren from the Brookings came out. I was afraid these were going to go and eventually get into our winter wheat called barley yellow corn. And then about 5 days later, they took care of themselves. I mean, they just completely have that aphid population worked out. You know, this is I feel really strongly on soil sampling. On the Haney test, we're going to do that. I've got all my steel soil samples. We're going to do a composite sample. So we're going to stop, and I'm going to take a zero to do my regular one, and I'm going to do a Haney test, and then I'm going to composite that field, because I'm not saying that thing doesn't work. It's just that it's hard to. I've got to see it on their own farm, and so this is where we put a one in the cab this year. And all we do is our own soil sampling. Been doing this for a lot of years. The reason I don't go in a straight line is because if the drill's going to make a mistake, it's going to be in a straight line. So that's why you zigzag around. You can never go in a straight line. And if you're going to make an application error, it's going to be in a straight line. Another thing I do when I get done soil sampling, you can see the soil, and I've got a piece of expanded metal, and I run it through and get it really fine. And then I take that sample and I stir it all up, and it goes in the sack. And the reason I do that is because I went to all that work to get that sample, and I get that sample, and I don't just want to grab 2 or 3 quarters out, and then immediately it'll go in a cooler. So I mean, I'm not saying it from here to the lab but I'm going to do everything I can to put that soil in the right environment. And so then we variable rate, and we've been I made up my mind, and with Cheryl Reese in the college way before we had any good software, that this is where we needed to be. And basically where it was is a lot of our ground, we weren't putting enough phosphorus on for our better ground, and a lot of times we were over-fertilizing with urea, and so that's like, I really felt we had to be there. So our software, we just take 2 land stats. I can take 10 land stats, whatever we can. I worked with UMAC for, I don't know, the last 10, 12 years, and then when I get all that done, use ag data mapping, and basically it'll take it in and write a script, and this is what it'll do. It'll make you a zone map. So our zone, I'll variable rate on corn, variable rate seed, nitrogen, phosphorus, and have different yield goals. And then I really believe in coping a lot of ways in the ground. I mean, I just feel that's really a must, and we go back to the same place, and then so here's our variable rate map. So you can see the different rates. This is one that was kind of, you know, it was really easy when we first started, because this is how it all started. This is the easy way to do it, and there's still a lot of guys do this, because you talk about what am I going to do for next year? Well, let's see how much spring wheat do I need, how much winter wheat do I need, how much corn, and there's a lot of guys that will not get away from that because it's easy. Well, what I decided and what I found out right now or what I found out in 2002, that's what got us. Cheatgrass just nailed us, because cheatgrass will sit back and figure it out. I mean, I don't care what weed or what you're doing, you need diversity. Just like in the corn with some of these weeds and stuff, you have to be diversified. But this is something that's Brian Jenks, was with him a while back, but this is something that we really have to be aware of. And I know you guys I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I'm going to do it again. But you can see where we're going, and we're going in the wrong direction on this. So a lot of people in our area, there's one guy that went up to a gallon of Roundup. Didn't want to put anything else in a gallon of Roundup. So this is just like, and so I think we're pretty clean, we don't have anything. So all of a sudden we have an AL resistant deal. So I went to Vanville. Okay. This just came out. I think this got shot down. But they're talking about making it where you can spray 2,4-Ds and Vanvilles on corn all the way through the season. And they're really happy about it. I mean, that's what they want. Boy, this will fix everything. If you guys Google "Take Action," this is really a good brochure. You just take action and you'll get this. It's in the PDF. Okay, so this deal right here, as you look through, this is one kind of weed, and so it says resistant species. There's 15 resistant species, and they'll come over here and have it. And the soybean council puts this out in Kansas. So just like right now, so what they want to do is they want to go to Vanville 2,4-Ds. There's 10 weeds already resistant. We've got 10 weeds already resistant, and that's what the seed companies would want us to do. This is one, people talk about, just like right now, this is the status, this is the chemical status we think off the label of corn, but so there's no resistant weeds in that family. When you get this, you look through the thing with no resistant weeds, it's hard to come by. This is we've got an ALS, there's 45 weeds resistant. This is a couple of our rotations, and the main reason I make these rotations is I was running from cheatgrass. So little did I know was I was helping soil health, and little did I know what I was doing. But I mean, I was getting the weeds under control. I was getting a lot of the weeds that like the cheatgrasses and the buckwheats and stuff. I was solving some issues with rotations. Buckwheat's non-existent on our farm. So here's what it took a while, and all of a sudden, the rotations, I rotate my chemicals. So I'm solving two things. Are we worried about this? Tremendously worried. We've got some neighbors that still spray straight off glyphosate. When this thing rears up, you guys, and it's close, I mean, it's, and this gets back to that take action again. So you can go through and you can see some of these are in the same chemical group. I mean, this one here is two different ones, but it really gives you it's really a good sheet. Just one sheet, you hold it up and pin it in your shop, put it in your sprayer, do whatever you want, but it's really worth it. This is Brian Tracy's again. So Kansas, the first one was 5 noxious weeds. Look what all they did to that. And then they resprayed it again, so it was sprayed 3 times, and that's in Kansas. These are our rotations on our farm, you guys, and I work really hard on these. The first thing we have an issue on our farm is they go to rotations. And everybody, when everybody was chasing the $7 corn last fall, or a year ago, we stuck with the rotation. We did everything we could. We had bales every week, but we just, a lot of guys went corn, sunflowers, and we tried to stay with the rotation. You went back to spring wheat, test grass, forage for a pound. Lentils, I don't have to talk to you guys about lentils and pulse crops, because the one thing about peas, western Nebraska last year had 40,000 acres of peas. This year they've got 80,000 acres of peas. Brad Carlin in Reliance sold 90,000 bushel of seed peas to Nebraska. He didn't have any peas for me, he sold them in Nebraska. So if you don't think someone doesn't realize what this pea deal is going on, they say in the hot lunch program that they're going to have 3 meals a week are going to have pulse crops in it. So there's a value in peas, and there's a lot of guys south of here. We have it moved right over us. We've got peas, but we feed them dirt. It's our protein source for our cattle. These are green, they wouldn't be we feed yellows to our cattle, we're not going to feed green. You know, tap grass, this is really interesting, and we planted this on our field, we planted the first in 2007. I don't know if you guys have been around the tap, it's fine seed, you know. Tap is just, it's really a quick one, you want to plant it the 1st of June, you Google tap and you'll read a lot about it. But, so we baled it, we got 1.8 ton, and then we let the biomass come back. We could have taken another 2 tons. This is the value of alfalfa. And we let that biomass back on there just to help with the soil health. We wanted to cover the soil. Look at that, you guys. I mean, everybody says you look on top, look at the growth. This is what interests me more than anything. This is what's doing a lot. This top's taking in carbon. This is what's feeding the good guys. And cover crops, you know, we started cover crops and we had a lot of work. We had a big SARE grant, you know, so we went through and finally realized we needed some cover crops. One thing that took me a while to use, another thing all of a sudden to come out by doing all this, we were starting to get healthy soil. And that when we have rain, and I really think that's a question everybody says is how much rain do you need for cover crop? And then so, you know, when we let rotations work for us and then feeding the soil food web is probably as big a job as what you can get out of the rotation. And then another thing, you guys, is think about carbon. The whole driving force should be organic matter. And so the only way you're going to get organic matter is by growing a living plant so it can take in carbon. So basically you're harvesting sunlight. I think that's real important because that's the easiest thing we can do is bring in carbon. But every time you work the ground, it's just like a belch and that carbon goes away. So what you want to do is you want to be a low disturbance no-till and you want to store that carbon. You want to seal that carbon in. And because that's what's going to make it organic matter. So basically what we're doing is just carbon farming. You know, I'll never call it dirt, it's always soil. And then Paul did a really good job of this about talking about live soil. But this is the corn crop in 2012. You remember back, we got 10.5 inches of rain in 2012. You know, I couldn't believe where this corn was coming from. This was planted behind the cover crop. Just couldn't believe where it was coming from. Beck just says, I'm going to call him Dwayne, Dr. Dwayne Beck, I'm just going to call him that. But Beck said, Daddy, just quit saying that. Just say this is what soil health does. But anyway, so I dug a root pit, and you can see how wet we are, or dry we are. But 5 foot 7 inches down, we still had roots. A lot is this. If you guys ever want to read about earthworms, which that's how you judge your soil health. I applaud that. I mean, but anyway, so get a spade out, go out in your ground. Every time you walk in your field, have a spade. Read about Charles Darwin. Unreal what he has about. He spent years researching. You could read on and on and on about earthworms. So you can see that just the tunnels, and then that'll also help you in the drought and just organic matter. But this is something I thought was pretty interesting. You know, you go through and all this, but just like in the casting in a worm tunnel, you get look at the amount of nutrients you get over that worm tunnel instead of beside the worm tunnel. So you can see why the roots kind of want to go down that worm tunnel. I mean, that's where all the nutrients are. Not only is it an easy way to grow, so you just can't put a value on earthworm or night crawler. So there's actually some of our soils. This is the top 6 inches of the soil in an extremely dry environment like we were in 2012. See the wormholes? What's going to happen when it rains? I mean, we're not going to have to worry about a lot of water running off. First cover crop 2006, this is a mistake. Wanted to be cool, planted full canola and lentils. And this is something that I think, you know, I'm going to talk about some of this about today, but where the guy really has to look at, this is the field harvester, is know your carbon to nitrogen ratio. You can get more and more trouble planting the cool stuff, where, boy, look at this looks nice, and geez, no one else in the country is planting this, but know what carbon to nitrogen ratio you need. This is another thing, and I did this in South Dakota, and I'm sure they got it up here because you guys have got all the money with the oil wells, so I'm sure you got it. But anyway, I was looking in South Dakota, at the South Dakota State, they've got a website where you can go and you can take any year back to 1930, and you can take whatever month you want, and it'll tell you how much rain you get. So and maybe they got that here. I'd like it if you could let me know if you got it. But anyway, this is the closest I could come up with. This is Cooper's Town. Got your average rain. So I love the wet soil survey. If you guys don't use it, you need to be using it. This is the best tool there is. So right now, this is a piece of ground right south. I'm not picking on anybody. I don't know whose it is. But you can see it will hold 10.2 inches on average in the top 4 foot, just 5 foot, let's call it. So this is the map. So look at right here. So this is over. So it's just about 4 inches more than the soil will hold in here. So like you take out the wheat harvest, you're going to take a month out of here. You're going to take a month out of the rainfall. So I mean, it's just if you've got the water, let the plants use it. So what's it going to hurt for that cover crop to use an inch and a half of rain, and that's moisture, and that's usually all it takes when it's cool in the fall. So I just think there's a lot of times the guy says, why are we going to let that cover crop use that moisture? Well, not only is it harvesting carbon, cycling nutrients, feeding your healthy ground, but it's really using water that you can't hold anyway. With the wet soil survey, I mean, this is really a neat tool. I like this. I use it all the time. Another thing we got to watch out for sulfur, and we're finding that it's rare enough. It's you guys with canola probably know that a lot more than I do. You know, you can Google and download both of these books in PDF. This book is really, really a good book. It's Ray Wells. I had a nice visit with him down in Omaha. Tremendous soil scientist. But this will really tell you about everything you need to know about cover crop. Download the PDF and it's there all the time. And then another thing you got to ask yourselves is, what do you want to plant? Because everybody's throwing stuff out. Like you'll look at a cover crop supplier, and he'll come up with names of stuff you don't even never heard of before. Everybody's looking for the exotic thing. I look for the least expensive thing that'll do the job. And so you got to ask yourself a lot of questions. And I think the big one is that carbon and nitrogen. I mean, I just think you really need to know what you want for carbon and nitrogen ratio. You just don't want to plant what they do in the next county over. You really, and the NRCS is working hard at that, you guys. They're going to have a lot of recommendations. And then we worked with the CSP. That was a no-brainer. Right now, we can get equipment money for cover crop. We can't because we're in the CSP, but you get a good payment, 3-year payment for cover crop on CSP. Organic matter, and then try to stop bleaching, and then this is one that, you know, this is kind of how people get started. But don't do it just because it's cool. Do it because you know it's benefiting you. This is in the book. I've just taken rye. I've got some other references, so it's an end scavenger. This is in that managing cover crop profitability. You know, this is sunflowers are in rotation. You talk about a cheap, deep taproot sunflower cover crop. Less expensive. I'm not going to say cheap anymore. So, but just know where they are in rotation because you don't want to post. But you know, 2 pounds of sunflowers, 40 cents worth of sunflowers. So that cover crop right there is 2 pounds of sunflowers in the mix. So 40 cents, you got to get a taproot. Cows like sunflowers to graze. This is 2006, terribly dry. We cut silage, planted it. Cows ran on it. And then we've also put rye up for So what I did was we're gaining on it. So in the fall of 2011, I put rye and canola in, and I hate it. And then I put forage barley and oats in 2013, and I hate it. But not only when I hay it, then I'll haul that hay off. I'll haul it home and put it on the knolls where we feed the cows, where there's not a, there's no issue of the salt or anything, and I'll but I haul that salt in the plant, so I'll haul it off and feed it. But we're gaining on it, and then this is something that this is kind of what I go by. This is from the NDSU. So rye and canola, they're both, this is tolerant, and then here's the barley and oats. Barley isn't quite so much, but then look where the corn is. But this is a good little chart. I've tried sugar beets. I like sugar beets, but the only thing is we have trouble getting sugar beets with good germ. But usually we got old seed, and you always run into pay a lot of money and don't get a lot of plants. So I try to stay away from sugar beets. This is when we should plant cover crop. We just don't have the manpower. I mean, it's just this is when we should. Combine's still going. This is one of our mix. I made a mistake on this. This is planted on pea stump. That looks nice, I thought. But what I did was I was on pea stubble. It was winter wheat stubble, went to pea stubble, but I didn't have enough carbon in here. So I had oats and all of it. And what was so neat is you could go and you could, the VFW had a feed and they used our turnips and radishes from Crone's farm. Oh wow, geez, everybody's talking about it. And I would have been a lot better off having more carbon. Our soils are active enough. So, so this is a 6-foot probe, September 12th. Wayne Beck took these pictures. So, and I was able to push that probe down, and we can do this. Last in 2012 we can't, but if we have any more to go, we're able to do that. This is another thing, looks cool. I like that we hold that radish up. I mean, with me, I'll go away from other cover crops. I like the taproot on radishes. I like it a lot. Turnips, if we're going to graze, we'll plant them. There just ain't enough tubers. It lays on top of the ground too much. They're good. Radish seeds too expensive, too big a seed. I still plant it. I like lentils. They're just not very competitive. This is that cover crop after a hard freeze. So the cows are ready to come home. And the cows come home and they hit that thing and just like hit the brick wall. They just stop. And right now it's just like when the cows come home, they kind of say, well, what cover crop you got for us? I mean, them cows that cover crop, we're not like the Dave Brown show who have fences and we do all this. We're just farmers. And I'm not saying Dave isn't a farmer, but you know what? The cows, every day they go back out. I mean, they won't even clean up all their feed, they'll go back out. They like that cover crop that well. And so we extended our grazing season. So you have to make sense of it. This is how we got the NRCS in South Dakota to give us money for cover crop. Because I did this presentation, I kind of showed how the ground was eroding and what we were doing. Now here's after they grazed it, so they actually cut the tubers off. We were worried, same way we're going to plant corn wasn't an issue. This is German millet and planted in field pea stubble, so it wasn't too bad a deal because see, I had the best of both worlds. I got a lot of carbon, so that was a good cover crop. Another thing is this is a biomass. I've done biomass several different times. And this is stuff that didn't really have a lot of biomass in it. So you soil sample it before, and I applied some in at planting, and we just never got enough rain. And these are cover crops used, so you can see the plus and minuses. And so this is just where I've got the radishes, I just don't like the cost. Hairy vetch, I really struggle with controlling hairy vetch. The field peas are just too big a seed. I love flax. My garden at Friendly Billy go through the whole thing, the cowpeas, just when it turns 30, when they hear it's going to be 34 degrees, they just go away. And then to recognize that the soil can be healthy, one has to only think of it as a living entity. It breathes, it transports, and it transforms nutrients into it is what you guys got. Oh, okay. Okay, now this is something I'll hurry up here. I struggle with this. The NRCS, I want to applaud them. You look at this deal, it says it smells like sweet aroma. So like right now, if you're coming on our farm, now invite anybody here to be on come to our farm. I love people to come to our farm. We're going to get down on our hands and knees, we're going to dig in the dirt, we're going to smell it. Because it just smells like potatoes. It's just the best smell you ever want. But just do that once in a while. This is our soils. Canola radishes, they both have the same top. It's just that the canola is smaller. Worth ethic trait, not canola. Worth ethic trait. The oil seed, so you see where it hit a little compaction, and then it went around. And this is kind of what we're going at, is a lot more carbon. And residue is this is behind our cover crop, so you can see how much residue broke down. This is something we tried one year, and I'm going to do it again this year. We went out in our silage corn when the corn got about 4 inches tall, and we planted a 4-inch soybeans, group 7, they get as big as your hand. So what we do is we went out there and we just planted them in between. We thought this corn was drought out. I took a picture of Shane and I turned around and took a picture. So this corn wasn't drought out. The soybeans was helping it with the water, helping it with the nutrient. So there's something going on there that's not, this is something you always try on a small scale. See, so you can see that this is the aftermath with the grazing. This is what the farmers are doing east of here. Ryegrass, crimson clover. This is in Canada, and we're going to do some of this. We're going to go on to C6, and we're going to put some ryegrass and annual rye on one of or cereal rye on one of our irrigation circles. And then we're going to plant it at B6, so the corn will be about this high. And then they're saying what's like east of us, what they're saying is what will happen is that it doesn't like the heat, and it doesn't like the no sunshine, so it kind of goes dormant. And then it comes back to life. And so basically that's what we hope to have. We're going to come back on there and graze it, and then we'll plant our soybeans into a living cover crop. And this is our residue. Our soils are active enough. I mean, so that's why I'm trying to slow down. A lot of guys' soils aren't like that. Our soils are active. Planted radishes in a high traction. This is one good place for radishes. If you ever have where you drive the trucks at harvest time, so this is the corn just coming up, and here's the tubers. The next spring, here's and this works, you guys. All you have to do is go around with a little drill and plant radishes in where you drive the trucks, park the trucks on the end of the field. This is our organic plant. So you can see that I did this. I took the yard square and found out, dried it down completely, and then I soil sampled before it's but anyway, we ended up with 88 pounds, and what I'll do is I'll take half of that for credit. I won't take it all. I'll talk to Ray Ward quite a bit, and I'll take half of it.